Welcome to Spaghetti Launchers, a world-building podcast where we throw spaghetti at the wall and it is up to you what sticks. I'm Kyle.
I'm Ethan. Today's episode, we will be discussing underground cities. That was my attempt to be cavernous, like you were calling into a cave.
I was wondering what the voice was. Every week it's like, what the fuck is that voice?
Yeah.
And this time,
how is this going to tie in?
Yeah. And
Let's figure it out.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Underground cities are a well-trodden trope.
Because they're so cool.
They're so cool.
They're so cool. They're always so fucking cool.
I don't think I've seen it. Like, even when it's done at the most average or mediocre level, it's like pizza.
Yeah.
There isn't really bad pizza.
Yeah.
There isn't really a bad underground city because it's unique, it's fun. So I assume, and we kind of talked about this before we started recording, that like this will be a bit of a mix and match, truly spaghetti launchers, whatever sticks, go for
just
it. Because
roll with it.
You combine various elements to make an underground city work, and you can have a single defining element of an underground city, or you can have 5, 15, 1,000.
It won't matter, and it will still be cool. We're also probably going to stumble across some idea that has already existed or been created somewhere by somebody.
Speaking of which,
without even knowing it, in which case we apologize, but it was probably a good idea.
That's the point of this podcast. Speaking of which, let's talk about some of the ideas that are out there that we think are really cool underground cities.
The first one that I remember like really sticking out to me is the city of Zion in The Matrix. Again, because of that one line where they're like, when Neo asks Tank, where Zion is, and he goes deep under the ground, under the Earth's core where it's still warm. You're like, that's so cool. That's such great world building.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. There's I went to kind of the more nuclear fallout side of things. Like you have the fallout shelters in Fallout. You have Silo, which is I haven't read the book series, but I watched the show. It's very good. We live underground because it's unsafe above ground, and we don't really know why, or we don't know what the status is up there.
Yeah,
you can go to Underdark, classic D&D style of there's just a giant underground cavern world that exists that is kind of ignoring any physics that exist. In that vein, in the new World of Warcraft expansion, which I am doing my semi like 5-year return to WoW for like a new expansion to play for a little bit and go, that was fun, and then I'm done. But this one's really good, and they have it is like mostly an underground expansion, and they have a zone that is it's called Hallowfall, and it's this giant cavern space with like flowing water, whatever, but they have a massive crystal hanging from the top of the cavern that acts as a sun because it's glowing.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's illuminating, and then it has like a bit of a day-night cycle.
Yeah.
But it's a way to get the vibe, but get around the lack of sunlight, which is a key element. It's oftentimes is like, if you have humans there, how do you accommodate for the lack of resources or the change of resources? And just that giant crystal hanging from the ceiling is really interesting. Cool. And it kind of like, and then you think about it, you go, oh shit, I forgot we're underground.
Yeah.
And you look, you can see the top.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Dyson trees?
No.
So Freeman Dyson, the
guy who made the Dyson sphere,
had also posited Dyson trees, which he also posited Dyson trees, which are trees that can be used to make anaerobic environments. Aerobic, meaning like they are planted there to provide oxygen and air. So the tree, for example, that Echo lives near in Piltover, that is from Arcane. That would be
season 2 coming soon.
Yeah. November 9th, Kyle and I are having a watch party. Let us know what y'all think.
I mean, that's kind of it.
Yeah, that's sort of the big one as far as... There are other examples, but they're all more sci-fi.
I mean, we talked about in our recent episode on forges, a lot of these forge cities are underground cities, like everything Dwarven, basically, like Moria. We talked about Iron Forge. We talked about these places that, like they are in a mountain. They're underground. Like underground technically counts if you're in a mountain.
Erebor, the king under the mountain.
Yeah, it's
perfect example.
Yeah, these are like great examples. I think I'm thinking more about like you can't walk in a straight line and exit and be above ground. You have to walk. You have to go up.
Yeah,
like you are truly under, not just like beneath the exterior.
Slightly,
yeah, like mountainous and hilly isn't quite what I think. I think we really need to go beneath. But
As part of my prep for today's episode, I went back and rewatched the Planet Earth episode on caves, which y'all should do because it is super cool.
Did you see that there was in the Carlsbad Caverns, there was someone like dropped a bag of Cheetos and it burst because of the pressure change, and it created this whole problem because it's fucking with the ecological system down there, and it was like creating introducing new bacteria.
What? And I did not see that.
Yeah, I don't know the exact implications of it so far, but I saw that story. And all right, so you want to go ahead and give our descriptions here. What do you have? What's your menu you've brought?
Close your eyes. Okay. What about you? Describe your dish for me, Kyle.
What is this accent?
I don't know. Describe your dish for me, Kyle.
Disparate stars.
I'm interested in that.
Well, let's hold off then. Like, you go first.
Well,
so you can stay teased.
The thing that stuck with me most about watching that Caves episode of Planet Earth was how many creatures, when you are born in the dark and live your entire life in the dark, your eyes would be pretty functionless. And a lot of creatures that live down there in full darkness, deep under the earth, are fully pale.
Yeah.
Because they have zero exposure to natural light, and they are also blind.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about what would it look like for a creature. You would have a fully functioning society in D&D terms full of creatures that all have blind sight.
Yeah.
Basically, because they have, we're not talking to drow and you have, which can still see perfectly normally. I think that's actually kind of boring, frankly.
Fuck the drow.
Whereas this is much more, how do you actually survive? It's more, you would be more akin to almost a vampire, where you being in the sunlight would cause you potentially harm, not just disadvantage, right? So in this city, this underground city, the city of Dal, is...
They like lentils there?
No. Dal is actually the word for blind in Irish Gaelic.
Huh, fun.
And I thought that was a cool sounding name for a city.
Okay.
Especially one populated by blind creatures, which is where we're getting to.
And lentils.
And maybe they eat lentils down there.
There you go.
I don't know.
Maybe they like children's books.
Sure.
Roald Dahl.
There we go. When we think of cities, particularly in a fantasy setting, we always think of them as these big, grand things, these big, architectures and intricate detail and design. But if you were populated by multiple species, all of whom were completely blind, you wouldn't have detailed artistic architecture in the same way. Everything, I imagine, would be much more naturally hewn and driven directly into nature. So this is a city that is built into massive stalagmites and stalactites, connected by ropes and bridges. Essentially very similar to a forest city or a tree city, but just stalagmites and stalactites underground. They're all connected. All of the creatures that live down there are completely blind, but they still have a very functional society. There are blind cave worms that they ride to get around, and there might be a species of bat-like creature that uses sonar to get around. The city itself is very, very rough hewn, but I imagine because they are so dependent not on their sight but on other features, I imagine it's very comfortable. Like all the other
so it's like
senses, you're accounting for all of the other senses. So
yeah, so it'd be like tactily very satisfying, like everything would be plushy and soft, but it would look ugly because they don't care.
And they just have no way of knowing. So if you as a visitor down there,
you'd be really confused.
You might be really confused, where everything, it smells really good. They work very hard to make it an incredible city and experience for themselves. They don't lack for comfort, for creature comforts.
Yes.
It's just all very different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
And from what you'd expect. And you would still have places of gathering and religious ceremonies, and you could, I haven't quite worked out what those might be or what the religion might be. But the point is that it would be in the same exact city, just not I want to move away from, like you were talking about with the Moria version, where everything is these big, rigid, brutalist art, like, you know, architecture where that's a big part of the vibe.
Where it's super orderly.
Yeah, super orderly and very, you know, everything. There are these beautiful, incredible lanterns.
It's a grand. It's man conquering nature by making the underground
like the above ground.
Yeah.
Just underground.
Yeah.
It's the same world, just underground.
Yes.
This is not. This is a distinctly underground world. And so maybe there are caves out there that just have these massive piles of bat guano that I could imagine you find a way to use as a source of fuel down there, or for building, or for sculpture, or agriculture. I like the idea of building it into the stalagmites and stalactites. That's a vibe that I like a lot. But you could flex with it a little bit too.
Do these people communicate? Do they use echolocation at all? Because I imagine that they might use it a little bit, and then they, like, the city could also be covered in like stuff that would reflect back to them. But then they might not want that from a comfort perspective. So I don't know. It's like, what's the audio? What's the audio design?
Yeah, great question. They do use echolocation. But much like whales, it's not clicking, it's song.
Oh.
And so so
it's really pleasant everywhere.
It's really again, because you want things to be, they are going for creature comforts and pleasantries. They are aware of the upper world. And so they know that they do have to account essentially for tourism in a certain sense, because they might get people down there.
But it's dangerous. They probably. I think they should say, we don't care about tourism. If you want to come down here, we will accommodate to the best of our ability, but we're not going to do anything differently. We're not going to.
No.
We're not going to make it different.
No, they're not. But I think just like so let me rephrase that. Just like any other society, the pursuit of comfort does become a goal.
Yeah.
And so that's part of it. But you made a really good point about the acoustics down there. If you're in a big cave, big acoustics. I do actually think that inside homes where people live, they are dampened. The acoustics are dampened so that you're not bombarded by all of the other noises coming in from the cave and the other city.
So every house is basically soundproofed.
Basically, so it's internally you can hear.
Yeah. But I think that is a really cool feature, is that make every building, like, the second you exit the building, it's like a cacophony of noise, because people are trying to get from space to space, and it is like also like they're in a giant cavern. And the second you enter a room, the second you enter a building, the acoustics are drastically different, because they go from sound amplifying to sound dampening.
The place where sound is deliberately amplified, though, is in the religious center, where they all come together and basically form a massive chorus, where the entire city comes together to sing. And that place is designed with a particular type of metal that reverberates.
Yeah.
So it and you're singing deliberately in different directions to trigger different reverberations and acoustics of different materials.
That's cool.
So you're turning the whole city into an instrument.
My brain straight went to the Who's down in Whoville.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, that's a weird vibe. I think that's cool. I think it should also be amplified on, like, major thoroughfares for people walking, so that the echolocation, so they don't run into each other. So that way they can go quicker. So like they want to amplify it there, so that it's they can use echolocation really efficiently. So it's like, but it won't be in the same, like, it won't be as loud as when everyone's singing together. But also using it in a way that makes sense. But they also have, like, ropes and guides and stuff. People like walking wherever just to get, and people would memorize the city quickly.
Right. It's like 3 levels basically, where when you're inside a home or a building, sound is dampened for increased private one-on-one communication.
Yeah.
Once you step outside of that building, it's amplified, but neutrally so. No one's trying to reduce or amplify. And then you go to the temple, and that's where it is deliberately amplified.
Yeah.
And you have turned caverns into different instruments to amplify the song.
Yeah. And I love the idea the entire time this all looks hideous. Just a patchwork of random materials that do their job but don't look great.
Nope.
And nobody would care or notice.
You wouldn't know.
So then like people from the outside would look in and see and think this
if they were to be able to see it somehow.
Yes, like if somebody made it down. No, like a outsider like goes down there and sees it and is like, this is like a barbaric, savage place.
Yeah.
Look, like, because it's usually like the patchwork, the like randomness that you would see. You usually would associate with chaos and with a savage society, quote unquote. Like, this is the orcs. Like, you know, these are goblins who are like, you know, they're just thirsty for blood. But they just have no reason to care about the visuals. They are a very peaceful and orderly people. Yeah. The visuals are irrelevant to them.
Borderline hedonistic, because they are in pursuit of these other pleasures, right?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
That's the city of Dal.
I like it.
Tell me about yours, man.
Okay. So, there's a couple ideas I think kind of that I wanted to bring together.
Ooh.
I want to do it as I want to do away with the great city, the big city underground. I want it to be a collection of smaller little towns, villages, like old school London, you know, where it's just like there is no London, there's just an amalgamation of villages.
Yeah.
That kind of approach, but it's all in these small to medium sized caverns that are all just connected in this interwoven network below the ground. And I don't know why they're below ground. These are like normally functioning people. We'll get to that. Like these are just regular humans that are down there. But they have this setup in part because they have natural light in the form of broken stars, and exactly how they have that, that's up
Doesn't
to
matter.
You. Doesn't matter. We're hand waving that. They have these broken stars. They have small parts of natural light that they're able to put in the center of each of these caverns, and they're of different sizes. So the smaller ones they put there, and then they have a small hamlet or village that has this natural light, so they can kind of thrive there. And they have some that are larger, so they can fill a larger cavern. And people basically didn't live in this circular fashion where everything is centered around, you know, you're on the edges of this cavern and the center is the star, and you don't want to block anyone's home. So in the middle you would have more like open air, like open seating for tables, and people, like all the restaurants are outside, and all of the there is just a giant communal space in the middle centered around this star at the center, which in my mind is on the ground. It is not up in the way anywhere. It's like sitting on the ground because it's too heavy. Yeah. So it just sits there and it gives off this light. It doesn't go down. There's no day-night cycle. They have to artificially create that by deciding to go to bed. But I also wanted to maybe infuse that there are small holes in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like little drilled down or like wormed out holes, so they can see like little beams of regular light from time to time, so they can kind of see there's no more sunbeam coming in, it's nighttime, everybody go to bed.
Right.
And maybe they'll put like a little sheet over the star. They'll like try and cover it to be like, okay, we're going to night, whatever. Yeah. And then you can kind of move between them, and there isn't like a singularly good map or understanding of how this civilization city is structured. You know, there are dozens of these little outcroppings that exist, and they're all just kind of like, there's a network between them, and maybe at the center there is like an administrative center, but maybe not.
Love. One, does it just give off light, or do they use the pieces of the broken star to power? Does it give off other forms of power that they use to power their society?
Probably gives off heat.
Heat?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fucking star.
Okay.
So it's probably hot.
But temperate enough that it makes for comfort, but not like...
Yeah, because you're balancing out the cold of being underground.
Sure.
So it can dry it out a little bit. It can heat it up a little bit, or like a lot, and then it can provide the light. Like, you know, these are shards of a star.
Yeah.
So, and they're within close proximity. So it's like really small, but it does a lot.
Yeah. So I have this vision in my head of them lighting rooms by literally shaving parts of the star to get actual stardust, and then going and blowing that dust onto the ceiling.
Oh,
to recreate
like glitter,
like glitter, but it's glowing glitter to recreate, like particularly for, I'm imagining a little kid's room and their parents come in and that's how they decorate their room. And it's a small detail, but for some reason that's just sticking in my head.
I think that's really interesting, and I think you get at something. I don't necessarily like the idea of it being done like that, but like using it as lanterns, making like stardust lanterns, because you can't have firewood because you don't have trees. So, and you don't want to be burning charcoal and stuff for or like other stuff. Like you don't want to be having a ton of open fire for light.
Yeah.
So what do? Then like you might just like one, you could build it where each of these homes is like huge, like open space window kind of thing on the outside, so they get the light from the star itself. Or you shave off and you have like, maybe it's some of the, because it's like the dimmer or like older star shards that they've found or they've acquired, that those ones aren't great for being a centerpiece, but they can shave those down. So it's like the remnants, then you can go buy you also don't want to fuck with your main source. Right. So you go to like the depot where they are shaving them down there. They have the special equipment, and you can buy little stardust lanterns that you can put around, and then you look inside of it. It is just like a swirling mass of dust.
Yeah, like a lava lamp almost, or a glitter ball.
And then it has like a hood so you can close it.
So there's actually an entire, in Israel, because so many of the Orthodox who live there keep Shabbat, where you're not allowed to turn on or off electricity from Friday night, from sundown to sundown, Friday to Saturday. There is a whole branch of home goods that have blackouts or other ways of turning it on and off built in. The lamps are cool because you can't turn off a light. So if you turn on a light, you can't turn it off. But so a lot of them will have vents, basically, that you can rotate, that will turn off, that will put blinders on.
Yeah.
And then you turn them back off. So that's sort of what I'm thinking about with your lanterns, like
so I'm saying that's what the hood is.
Yeah, basically.
It's what I already said.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying there's a real world analog for it.
Okay.
The third thing is the chemical mix will be different at different parts of the star. That's normal, know. And so I imagine there are metallurgists that are really good at just looking at the star and knowing, okay, this piece is going to be dimmer, so this is good for a lantern, whereas this is good for filing to make the star dust itself. Let's make it super cool and say, hey, this part has a higher iron concentration, so this is going to be what we're going to find a way to forge into weapons somehow. And so you have your star metal dagger, arrowhead, something.
Yeah.
Because it's a fantasy world, and it would just be fun to do that.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Because if you imagine you had a volley in a cavern somewhere of these
stars,
of these arrows tipped in star metal.
Yeah.
And you're there trying to conquer the city, and then suddenly it looks like the stars are falling onto you.
Yeah. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was trying to think of like, why are they below ground? And I was like trying to, like you can do any various reason that you would need to hide from above ground, and none of them stuck out to me in particular. One that I thought was kind of funny was like the idea that it's just the natural above ground is just too loud. There's just so much.
You can do that.
It's like, so you go underground for the silence or for the quiet of it, because you want the insulation, which is similar to what you can. We've made it back to acoustics.
Yeah.
But like instead of a quiet place, it's a loud place.
Yeah.
It's just constantly so loud. People were going crazy, so they decided to hide. You can do any. It's too hot. There's no water. There's no. There's whatever. Like any restriction would work. But I couldn't really come up with anything. I mean,
I've got one.
What?
The stars are falling.
Oh, yeah, that's easy. Done.
And it's too dangerous to be up there because your world is sort of in the midst of a meteor shower or an asteroid field. And that's so the pieces of the stars that are falling, it's just too dangerous.
Yeah, you are
but that's how you also get the material. So you do have to go up and venture into the upper world to go get more star metal.
Yeah, but you go up there and it feels totally normal. It's like very much like Golden Planet vibes, except for you just see the occasional meteorite of a star coming down, and they'll have the volleys that are really quick all of a sudden. Where it's just like all of a sudden, just a huge artillery barrage, and then you're like shit, and then sometimes it's completely silent for days.
Yeah,
I think that's a perfect example. And then we also explain why they have why they have these fallen stars, and these are small shreds. So it's like and maybe it's like that planet eventually, like, you know, it at some point became it found itself in the midst of like an asteroid belt of stars, or you know, like it was, I don't know, like I feel like it's cool if there was it was a sudden change that they ended up here, or who knows why that's the way it is. It's just the way it is now.
Big ass meteor hit the moon exploded,
and then they lost their defense.
Yeah, and so now it's just falling.
All the moons were or like it had a series of moons,
sure, and
all the moons were destroyed, and now all of the like, and they used to get the occasional falling star, but so they know what this is, but it was so rare because all the moons were taking all the hits, and the moons were all destroyed eventually, and then now they have no defense on the outsides.
And now the moons are also part of the star metal, and so you have to sift through: is this moon or is this star metal?
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And you got to
it's not star metal; it's star.
It's star, but
it's plasma. This is a full plasma thing.
Yeah, but you've got to
don't worry about the physics.
No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
just roll with it.
Yeah,
but you've got to sift through. You've got to find: is this irradiated moon, or is this plasma, or is this star?
Yeah, they probably know pretty easily.
Yeah, but you still got to sift.
They have to or they have to go to a location like, oh, a thing fell. Go over there and be like, fuck, it's just moon. And
or it could be
they can tell pretty quickly, but
or it could be, you know, what wiped out the dinosaurs. It could have been just one big meteor crash into the upper surface, so people move down underground, and then occasionally there are not raids, there are expeditions to go mine the big glowing star that fell and bring it back underground.
I like it more if it's a constant thing.
I do too. I'm coming up with options here.
Yeah. Especially because then I really like my idea of having just the small little drill holes, because I think just having like little skylights every once in a while.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's nice. Important.
And then you can also have them be like, you could put little periscopes or something through them to keep an eye out for where they can track where big star falls have happened.
Yeah, that's really fun.
And then send the parties who go out, like whatever these expedition guys, but go
there.
Like, you know, they look at the map and they go, here you go. And it's like, it's not like I like the idea of a world that is hostile, but not in a way where there's always a sense of urgency. It's just like, hey, here's the threat. It's constant. We know what it is. Just like, go do your business.
It's more like annoying and exhausting to have to deal with.
Yeah, and like, you can do an ordered process. There's no one's trying to kill you. There's not like massive beasts up there because they're all getting wiped out.
Yeah,
and like we'll hand wave the food stuff for now. Like, you figure out the food, but like, you know,
they eat mushrooms.
Yeah, they eat tons of mushrooms, and like plenty of stuff can grow underground.
Yeah,
and not just mushrooms. There are actual crops that can grow without sunlight, and then they have water pretty easily accessible because they have like all the
springs,
underground aquifers.
Yeah,
they're right by them.
Yeah.
But they make sure they don't build on them because they don't want the stars to accidentally dry them out.
Good.
So they're in separate caverns that are still in the darkness.
Yeah.
They'll bring in lanterns, but it'll be like there'll be like a giant space around like which they've dug caverns or dug the tunnels like to get from cavern to cavern, and then there'll be like little spigots on it. You're like, this is an aquifer.
Yeah.
So you can come and like get your water from the aquifer, like just a community fountain.
Yeah.
But you can't get in there. They're like, no, don't go in there. We don't want you in there. No, we got in there.
The water guard.
We're not gonna tell you how we got in there.
But we did, and that's all you need to know.
Yeah, and I like the idea of like, the water guard's cool. Like the people who are in charge of, because the water resources are so precious, and they've built around them, and they can't go get another water resource. They're like really putting in a lot of infrastructure to make sure that it works, and like all this engineering, but it's all behind the scenes. They don't want anyone to know what's going on with it because they're like, nah, you don't worry about it. Just live your lives. Yeah, I like it.
I do too. I think that's really fun.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to our frozen spaghetti then. Frozen lasagna?
Frozen lasagna.
You could do frozen spaghetti. We've made it frozen lasagna, which does feel a little bit off-brand, but also we could do frozen spaghetti.
We could.
I've had a lean cuisine frozen spaghetti.
It's not bad.
Well, I mean, it's lean cuisine, great. So it's not good.
Yeah.
But, I've had it.
Yeah, it exists.
Frozen lasagna is generally better. So you get like the Stouffer's.
It's a casserole. It's a casserole. Like casseroles are always...
I need lasagna. I haven't had lasagna in a long time.
Fucking lasagna.
I might get lasagna today.
Dude, you should. Ding.
there is a Silo is a great example of this, and I'm kind of spinning off that, but like it's the idea that there is the underground city that exists just underground, and it is a cylindrical, like you can go down and it goes deeper, and then you're like, okay, well that's the city. But I want it to be that is like the outskirts of the city, and they keep it that way. They don't want people to know that when you get to the bottom of that cylinder, it opens up to a vast mega city that sprawls. But it's such a pain because it's all just one big staircase. Like if you watch Silo, you'll get the sense of it. Like doing that staircase is really fucking hard, and so it's all one big staircase. No one goes all the way to the bottom. Like no outsider does, and they keep it that way. They're like, and they just say like, oh yeah, down. And
it's all misdirection,
and they all lie about it. They're like, oh yeah, at the bottom it's just some fire pits to keep the place warm.
Yeah,
and you go down there, and it's like a million person city exists down there, just in a big cavern.
Nice.
There you go. All right, what do you got?
Well, my idea fits very well into what actually the megacity could be, which is a underground city where it is close enough to the core of the Earth, not only where it's warm, but also where gravity starts to get wonky. So it is a city that is built on both the bottom and the bottom of the cavern and the top of the cavern, because gravity is wonky. So you can basically float or jump high enough. Because at the middle of the Earth's core, gravity is null. There's zero gravity. And so the deeper you get, yes, there's an increased pressure, but you could also play more with the gravity. And so the city exists basically in 360.
Cool. All right. So what stuck for you?
I mean, I actually love the city of Dal, and I love the song Temple where they actually deliberately play with the acoustics to improve them. I also really like the star lanterns very specifically, like we're breaking off parts of the star to use not just for the main central light, but also everyone has their own little lantern. We're making arrows out of it. We're making, it's this, it is the key resource of this society. And it also gives really cool aesthetics and vibes. So I think we both did really cool shit actually today. Like I'm having a hard time picking just one thing.
Yeah.
What about you? What stuck for you?
I mean, I think a lot of pretty most of it. I really enjoyed everything that we said. There wasn't I think it's also they all fit within a bigger piece. Like they're all pieces in a bigger puzzle, and the puzzle itself is kind of hard to separate. So it's like, I think I really enjoy the sound dampening element of your idea of making sure that like I love the juxtaposition of interiors being very quiet and having those solid acoustics, and then outside being this amplified cacophony is really like that's a cool visual and audio. And then I really like my entire idea a lot, and I think it's leaning into the star side. I think what you said about making that above ground is falling stars. That's why they're underground. Perfect full circle on that one. I love the node-based side of a city, and that's why the idea visually came because I want to do a node-based thing where it's smaller little compartments of a bigger city. And when we were talking about, as I was really getting into the visual of it, of having the central piece being the star, and then having everything be on the exterior, and then making sure the interior of this cavern is clear of any major obstructions, because they need that light to permeate the whole space.
Yeah,
and really having this communal element to it. That they all need to abide by specific approaches for survival, but then also you create like a commune in each of these little nodes that is independent and separate, and you get the real villagey thing that, unlike a place like London, which was intended, it's slowly amalgamated into one basic place, and they still have some identity for their villages. This instance is your identity starts becoming more village based over time, because you are kind of locked in this little place, and you can go between places, but you get more and more amplified neighborhoods basically. And I really enjoy that element of it.
I think we both kind of knocked it out of the park on that. These are both just two really cool ideas.
Yeah. Well, that's what stuck for us. Let us know what stuck for you. Emails in the show notes.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you underground.
No, we won't. I'm above ground. I'm not going underground.
Well, that is your choice.
You can go underground if you want.
I like underground.
Ethan will see you underground. I'll see you above ground.